Today is Wednesday, August the 22nd, 2012. I'm Matthew T.G.
I'm Heath Mullican.
And I'm Tony Casey. Welcome to the Technology Show, a weekly podcast featuring technology, theology, and everything in between. This is episode 168.
Woohoo!
Listen, so Heath, you were gone last week.
I was on assignment, yes.
On assignment?
Yes. And
the family reunion was an assignment.
Yeah.
You were made to go. Must have been your wife's side of the family.
Yeah, definitely.
Gracious northern people, as I understand.
So I appreciate Steve Stanley filling in more than capably. And
Hey, listen, Steve was awesome last week. Now
ratings through the roof.
I'm serious. I was posting all last week, encouraging people to go listen to that. It was on First Commandment, faithfulness. Steve was at his absolute best. It was really good, and if I would just say to listeners today, tap into our episode last week. You will not be disappointed, and just lots of resources as well.
Yes.
So, hey, want to welcome with us today Reverend David Drury. He is the Chief of Staff for the Wesleyan Church at Wesleyan headquarters. Good morning, David.
Hey, guys. Good to be with you, and thanks for calling me Reverend. You know, I specify that wherever I go.
Well, I mean, I only had David down, but when you sent me that email saying, please put Reverend, I just thought, no, you didn't do that.
Can I just make a confession?
Please post that on Twitter, because I'm not sure I've ever said that.
About a month ago, I had to do a wedding, and I'm filling out the marriage license and misspelled Reverend on my title.
Way to go.
So, yeah, I was distracted.
Yeah, okay.
There's not a lot of shock right now.
Yeah.
We're all like, yeah, sounds about right.
All right, Heath, we have a giveaway we need to start promoting.
That's right. This is The Story of the Wesleyan Church by Dr. Keith Drury, Dr. Bob Black, two longtime friends. This is an amazing, amazing book. I actually read it in one sitting, and Dr. Black said I was crazy for doing that. It is the definitive history of the Wesleyan.
There have been histories of the church, but this is like a narrative history, dude, so it's not like a dry, oh my word.
Right, and let me tell you, if you are a fantasy sports guy, lots of statistics in the back, drafting your fantasy Wesleyan church team. That's
what we need. Mega church fantasy team.
I mean, Joanne Line, consensus #1 pick across the board, but I've been able to pick up.
What are some of the steals in the draft?
I got Jeremy Summers in the 4th round. I couldn't believe he fell that far.
I think about 15 years ago, Kevin Myers went for way undervalued.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the question is, what are those free agent deals right now? Those that didn't even make.
Oh.
Yeah, that's gonna pay off in a decade or so.
Well, the free agency season
Paul
in the
Tillman.
church is March, April, May. So not a whole. If you're a free agent, well, never mind.
All right. This is craziness, man. All right, so Teach, what do they need to do to get into the drawing for that
Go
book?
to our website, thetechnologyshow.com. You'll see a tab that says giveaway. I'm working on getting that set up right now. By the end of the show, you'll be able to start entering, and there's multiple ways to enter. One of them will be to follow people like Keith Drury on Twitter, and you won't go wrong doing that, becoming a fan of the Wesleyan Church, things like that. So there's tons of ways that you can get into this. At the end of the show, we'll talk about it again. It'll be live. If you're listening to this recorded, it already is live. You can get in and enter to win.
All right, so we'll give that away next week, and then we'll also start promoting another giveaway next week, and it's Mark Walt's book, Impressions. He'll be our guest next week, so looking forward to that as well.
Let's talk about our new time, too, real quick.
Yeah.
2 weeks.
Yeah, in 2 weeks we have our new day and time, Tuesdays at noon, and the rationale for this is pretty simple. Right now when we stream live at 9 o'clock on Wednesdays, it's 6 o'clock on the West Coast. It's been hard to schedule guests out there. Matter of fact, we've only scheduled one guest on the West Coast because they have to get up at such a ridiculous time to do it. And so we can't. The reason we moved it to Tuesday is because we can't do noon on Wednesday. It's a bad time for us. So starting the very first Tuesday, the day after Labor Day, we'll be in our new time, new day, new studio.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And a new haircut for me.
Yeah, well, I think it's new haircut, same old Heath.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, David, you're with us today to give us a virtual tour of headquarters, and let's just go ahead and start right there in your office, huh?
Well, yeah, so this is my office. Nothing exciting here other than it's bigger than I need, but I will take you around the building if you don't mind. Let me switch the camera here so you can see out.
Very good. So where are we headed first?
I'm actually going to walk right here into Joanne Lyon's office, if you've never seen this before. She is actually on her way right now to Australia for the new conference coming up that's being celebrated. And so we're missing her today, but she's on the way and needs to be over there. So there's a great painting of Joanne.
Oh,
that
well,
is
I just saw
celebrating.
Yeah.
Took me a
For a
minute.
year.
She just popped out.
Hey, listen, now, if Joanne ever needs the Techology Show to go to places with her, like
Yes.
Australia, we're willing to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll put that in our file.
Thank you. Hey, yeah, explain this, because you were explaining this to me yesterday.
Yeah, this was actually sort of a tapestry made by several who had been rescued out of the sex trafficking.
Wow.
And so it's made from cloths all over the place. And that was to celebrate her on her way out of World Hope when she became the general superintendent.
Yeah, I love it.
So I'll take you around here. What the key thing to remember, and some of this is, I apologize to people who are not Wesleyan who are watching today. This is a little bit of an insider deal.
It is.
But the Wesleyans reorganized our general leadership to really start thinking about a denomination differently than most people have in the past, to be a little more streamlined, a little more focused, and definitely more missional. And so what's happened is we now have 4 divisions. And so I'm going to try to stop at each of those on this tour.
And again, for those that are not Wesleyan, we used to have 3 general superintendents. At our past general conference, we went from 3 general superintendents to 1 general superintendent. And again, part of this whole streamlining. All right, so we're headed where? Education and clergy development now?
You got it. That's where we are, education and clergy development. And they work to make sure that our ministers are cared for.
Hi. Hello. You can't hear us, but hi.
So where's Kim?
And the training of our ministries.
Oh, there's one.
That was Kim. You just saw Kim.
That's what I
There's
thought.
Kim right there.
Tell her Tony Casey from South Carolina says hello.
Who is that?
Tony Casey from South Carolina says hello.
Say hello for me.
She just said, "Who's that?" Who's
Oh, no,
Tony?
she didn't. No, she didn't. She knows
I'm
who
just
I am.
kidding. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next place.
Can I just say that Wesleyan headquarters has some of the coldest water in their water fountains? It's the best.
Okay, so it's on record
It's
now.
sanctified.
Yeah, so if you said it, I mean, yeah. All right, where are we headed next here? Looks like...
Well, just so you know, we do purify the water directly from the River Jordan. Only the best for Wesleyans.
Wow.
I just saw a Thomas
We're actually
Kincaid.
heading now.
I can't see Tej.
This is the Church Multiplication and Discipleship Division, and they actually have a party they're doing today, a going away party.
Ah.
And so they're setting up in here.
So who's going away?
There you go. Look at all that. See, this what I'm hoping to do is leave someday so that I can have a nice party. So what they do in this division is they really focus on how the church can multiply for church planting around North America. And then they also focus on discipleship and how the church really becomes a place where community happens and people become more like Christ.
And that he's in the former spiritual formation department offices. Jim Dunn's there, Scott Simmons, Jeremy Summers. They're probably not in there today.
Well, no. Jeremy told me he's going to be in office.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, we'll just
There's several meetings that they have today in that division. I do know this is Wesleyan Publishing House. The one of the things about the multiplication and discipleship one is that they're just, I mean, we're all local church focused here, but in that department, most of their programming happens in the local church, so they're really out on the road quite a bit. I'm going to go downstairs now.
All righty. All right, so headed downstairs. I think you're headed towards Global Partners now. And this is formerly Wesleyan World Missions. the director for that is Dennis Jackson,
Yes.
who's been a really hard get for the show.
Yes.
I floated him another date, and it's a conflict in December. So we're,
Yeah,
He's
he
just a busy
just
guy.
got back actually in the middle of the night last night from Europe.
Wow.
He was all over in Europe. But I should have mentioned back there, Russ Gonzalez is the executive director of the Education and Clergy Development Division, and Jim Dunn, who many people have known for many years in roles leading in the denomination, is in charge of the church multiplication discipleship. So here we are at Global Partners.
Yep.
Hello. How are you?
Hello.
morning.
She's saying, "How are you?"
Buenos dias.
And here they mobilize all the different missionaries, short-term and otherwise. And
Hi.
They're the friendliest department so
Yes,
far,
by
we got to
far.
say.
we got away from everyone so far, man.
well, they have to be really friendly here because, they're sending people off in missions. And so these are the last, Wesleyans, most of the people coming through here see.
They also have the
So anyway,
weakest
that's a-
Wi-Fi signal.
I was going to say, we're starting to break up just a tad
wow.
on that one.
It's like the moon landing.
Yeah, I'm getting out towards the edge of the building, so that's why it
Yeah.
might have felt that way.
Although, shall we say, a year ago, what you're doing probably would not have been possible.
Yeah, and all credit for that goes to the division we're on our way to now, the communication
Yes.
and administration division.
Yes.
And the tech geniuses down there have really done a lot of upgrades to make sure. Because, in being more local church focused, we need to get out of this building not just on airplanes, but via technology. So
Yeah.
they've
Yes.
actually set up a new room to be able to do.
No.
David's having trouble stuttering. Right now. Again, no, we knew this might be an issue as he's walking from
Yeah.
one department to another. See, now he's
Right.
getting close so that the router's picked up.
And one of the things that they're going to be doing, and I guess I'm letting the cat out of the bag, is they have some tremendous studios in the Department of Communications. I know that some of the departments are working on some podcasting, and so there are some exciting things coming down the pipe to equip local church ministries. So that's going to be awesome stuff.
When I think, David, you'll show us a studio, won't you? Or where the room they're setting up?
Do we know where we are now? Have we heard? I think we've gotten ahead of ourselves.
Reverend Ron McClung.
Good morning.
This is communications.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
This is communications, but I
Okay.
don't know that David's hearing us.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm hearing you now. I just didn't want to speak over you.
Oh.
This is communication administration. This is Wayne Macbeth's office. And this division really handles all the communication we do with the church and really the administration that comes from communication we get from the church. So it's a primary link connecting headquarters activity and ministry and leadership to the local church.
And is this where the room is being set up for meetings where you can bring people in via video, stuff like that?
Actually, that's not planned on the tour today.
Oh, that's fine.
I don't know if we can get to there, but
No, that's
they
all
have
right.
just set that up. But I just wanted to get to the 4 divisions.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's set up upstairs actually.
Yeah, no, that's fine. All right. Well, that was kind of like if you've never been to headquarters, now you can say you've been, right?
Yeah, you have been there. I have seen.
Yeah,
All right. Now, are you headed back to your office, David?
I am.
Yeah. So, there are some questions we want to ask you. For those that don't know, our general conference was held back in, what was it, June or July? guys? June, yeah.
June, yeah.
And so it was shortly thereafter, after Joanne Lyon became the single general superintendent, the only one. She's not single; she is married, by the way. And shortly thereafter, David. Oh, here's the room that they've set up.
The church took responsibility for education.
And that's Wayne Macbeth to the left. He's the director of communications. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, David.
Good deal.
But anyway, David was elected brought in as the chief of staff.
Yeah, I was appointed. The rest of the executive directors are elected, and I was appointed by Joanne.
And if you're interested in what happened at General Conference, all the videos, all the proceedings, the business meetings, the devotions, it is all online at the Westland website. And if you don't have 3 hours to watch the business meeting, in 30 minutes you can watch our roundtables with David Drury, myself, Steven Sheets, and Keith Drury, and that was
there's
so
Priscilla.
much fun.
Hello.
Hey, Priscilla.
Good morning, Priscilla.
Hola.
You're so good with the Spanish there, Heath. I'm
I know.
intimidated every time I'm in your presence.
Pequeño.
Whatever. So, David, there, before we wanted you to. Oh,
Yeah,
who was that?
This here is an important element.
It's the John Wesley bobblehead.
Yes.
This is how I make decisions. If I know, I asked Master Wesley, should I preach on sanctification this Sunday?
Okay, and this is where we transition into idolatry, right? All right. Well, thanks for the tour, David. Before we let you go today, we wanted to ask you a couple questions.
Yeah.
For a number of years, one of the constant critiques of my generation, the younger generation, has been that denominations are top-down organizations that take resources from the local church, when in fact denominational headquarters should be resourcing, empowering the local church. So, how would you respond to that in the light of the Wesleyan Church, and especially just whole-scale changes that have been made just at the last General Conference?
Yeah, that's a great question, Tony. I think you're right that there's been a good amount of clamor among the current generation about this question. And maybe it's not just about denominations, but about government and about their local church. Yeah. And people might say that of their local pastor and board even sometimes. So it's sort of a don't tread on me philosophy. However, I don't think it's a new thing. In fact, our denomination is unique amongst denomination in that it was founded really, both sides of it, with a real emphasis on not being top-down, but on being grassroots, and on a real emphasis is not being clergy-dominated, but to have lay people have equality with the clergy in decision-making. So on both sides, there's really a movement mentality, and so I think we cannot become top-down at all. Beautiful thing is Joanne Lyon is the least top-down leader I've worked with. She is just very empowering and broad-based interaction, and so that's been nice here at headquarters to work with. Far more importantly, out in the districts, our district superintendents are heavily empowered. Our large churches are really empowered to do what they do. That's another unique thing about the Wesleyan churches. We have an inordinate amount of large churches. Why is that? People ask that from other denominations. They're like, what are all these huge Wesleyan churches? You must be a massive denomination. Well, no, we're actually kind of small. Part of that is an empowerment model that says, okay, you go and run with this and less restrictive on core, except on core issues. So there's theological financial accountability, but otherwise do your thing and grow the kingdom. So that's why 25% of Wesleyans are in large churches. Mm-hmm. So I think that there's a bit of a sense of we need to always do that. Now, in some sense, one of the ways we're trying to counter that is by slimming down headquarters. I just showed you 2 floors and the 4 divisions. There used to be many, many departments, and there used to be 3 floors of headquarters. We are renting out the entire 3rd floor of our headquarters building to other organizations because we're just streamlining and employing fewer people. Now, that's hard because, these are all flesh and blood, real people who we know and love and go to church with and are related to sometimes. But, the mission's more important than that in the end, and we're trying to care for people as we send them out as much as possible. We love this team. We even call it the headquarters family. It feels like a family. Sometimes people think it's really cold and lonely here, but in reality, it's it's sort of like a church environment, like a church of 100 that's helping support the rest of the church.
One thing I've heard, David, since you've been there is just that you do take time to kind of pop in to the different offices, and that I guess that hasn't been the case before. What's one of the reasons that you're doing that, and have you seen, like you said, it is kind of a family environment. How has kind of your role helped kind of shape that?
Yeah, well, I mean, we could do a whole episode on leadership, and I could reflect on my role a bit. I mean, it's a little interesting. Some people actually questioned me when I came into this role because I don't actually have any power, like zilch, and so that a lot of people see that as a downside. I look at that like, boy, if I was going after power, why would I be a pastor in the first place?
Yeah.
But so I don't really have any power. The rest of the cabinet has quite a bit of power. And of course, Joanne is a solitary GS. Many people say, wow, she has more power than any leader as a Wesleyan has had in decades. So they have a lot of power, but my job is relationship. And so I'm getting all these people that are powerful, influential, and extremely gifted people talking to each other. And one of the great things is I can have really frank conversations because nobody's afraid of me.
Right.
I'm not walking around with a hammer or anything. And so that's some of that I learned from my predecessor, Ken Hare, who was certainly that way.
Yeah.
And he was actually my pastor when I accepted Christ and when I was called in the ministry. So I really respect that man. But coming in, that's been my approach, Heath. So I'm glad you heard that. I don't know where you heard that around, but I'm definitely trying to roam around and connect people, love on people. Part of it is I'm pastoring the building. So I have a small church here that just so happens to, I get to spend, 50 or more hours a week with these people, with my congregation in a way.
Let me underscore something that you said earlier, David, and that is the strength of our current general superintendent, Joanne Lyon, is that she does such a great job in divesting and empowering people. I mean, if you want to hone in on what is her strength, not only have I seen this at the denominational headquarters, but this was also the case at World Hope when she was there. And my guess is that throughout her ministry, this has really been what she does well, is in terms of empowering people.
Yeah, and I think her model of leadership is kind of a steward approach. She's stewarding. She's not spending. She's stewarding. And so I think with that kind of, approach, she really is trying to make sure that people have what they need and that they feel freedom to lead. What we don't ever want to get to the place is where a denomination is restrictive to the actual revival of God, to the actual movement of God. And that's not actually a really lofty goal. Basically, all I'm saying is we at least better be neutral influence on the local church. Sometimes people think the denomination is actually a negative influence on them. Well, we better be at least a neutral influence, and then we're there, for financial and theological integrity if it all hits the fan. But what we're really aiming at now, and the cabinet spends a ton of time on, and Joanne is driving us towards, is being a positive influence to actually empower and make things happen. Now, of course, there are things the denomination can do that, my church in Marion, Indiana cannot do. And so that's why we do all that.
Right.
So
it's common for us as Wesleyans to talk about headquarters and what we think should or should not happen there. And no doubt you've probably had some of those conversations. So what is it like now that you are at headquarters? What are some of the insights? What are some of the revelations in your thinking? And what has confirmed some of your thinking before you went to headquarters?
Yeah, I mean, it's an odd situation. It's not just me. You might ask the question related to that, which would be, what happens when the insider and then the outsiders are all of a sudden the insiders?
Yeah, there you go.
That's really what's happened in the leadership in Indianapolis. Now, some of that's just the natural, changeover in leadership through the decades. Some of it is you do have a generation, the boomers, who really kind of like to lead with outsider language, and particularly when it came to denominations. So they're in charge now. The outsiders are, and I would be in that camp. I always thought of myself. So all of us here, I should say most of us, have kind of wake up every Monday saying, wow, I never thought I'd be here. And I imagine a lot of people out there are like, I never thought he'd be there, or he'd be in charge. But so it's a little bit of an odd situation, but it's really exciting because with that, it challenges us to not just be against something, but to be solution-oriented, to say, okay, what if we're reinventing a denomination, what does that actually look like? Not just so that we get to neutral, not just so that we're a positive influence on local churches, but so other denominations might actually learn from it. And what if we actually woke up and said, what if we thought more like a local church as the general church? What if we thought a little bit more like a nonprofit or NGO in our leadership style? What if we thought a little bit more like a corporation in our missional focus? And so that's a lot of what's happening, and it's been a fun shift. I mean, I think that I certainly still want a lot of change to happen, and there's been an immense amount of change just in the first. We're just about, I think we're 69 or so days in on this deal, maybe 65. And in that process, so much has changed around here. It's been pretty radical in some ways and hard for people to keep up with. That's one thing I've learned. Everybody told me, hey, Dave, you work with Joanne Lyon. You're never going to keep up with her. And I thought they were exaggerating. I work pretty hard. I have a lot of energy for the task. And they were right. I have not been able to keep up with her. She just goes 1,000 miles an hour and does so many wonderful things. It's been just trying to keep up with her and implement a lot of the vision she's bringing to the table has been a joy.
Yeah. Well, listen, David, we so appreciate you taking time out. We know that you do have a busy schedule. Want to know if there's a place where our listeners can keep up with you.
Yeah, certainly Wesleyan.org is the primary place that Wesleyans can go to get, and the Communication Administration Division I mentioned earlier runs that, and there's a lot of resources there that plunge out into, Wesleyan sermons and discussion groups and Facebook groups and all the ways that Wesleyans connect with other Wesleyans and get empowered for what they do. Me personally, I'm at daviddrury.com. I write there every day on leadership and theology and my faith journey, and even some fun videos from time to time. I'll probably post this one up there too.
All righty.
daviddrury.com.
All right. Well, thanks again for joining us, David, and certainly give Dr. Joanne Lyon our regards.
Yeah,
and
go
express
take a
appreciation.
Sharpie for us and a piece of paper. Write the Techology Show was here, and leave that for her on our desk just by
Yes.
proxy.
Yeah, for sure. She actually emailed me this morning and saw that she was going to be on, that I was going to be on with you guys, and she wanted to particularly say hi to make sure that you knew.
But it's so, it's clear that you got Wesley in there. Who's the third person for those that don't know who that is?
This is D.S. Al-Garaki, who photobombs all of his videos with pictures, so I thought I'd do the same to him.
That's lovely.
Always great to be with you, David. Blessings on you and the headquarters there, and you certainly are in our prayers.
Hey, can I do something a little odd?
Sure.
Yes.
Can I pray for you guys and what you're doing?
Oh,
Please
man,
do.
that'd be great.
Lord, I just ask that you would be with the Techology Show, with all of the people that are in the chat now, that are going to watch this later or watching it now. God, it feels a little weird sometimes to talk about our little tribe, the Wesleyan crew, and not bigger issues. It certainly is not all about our denomination, but we find a real richness in what we do as connected one another and empowering things we could never do alone. And when I hear the kind of things not only that these men and churches do, but also all the people they bring on as guests every week, it just warms our hearts to be connected with one another. I pray that you would really empower the pastors that are out there hearing this now to have a joy about being connected to their denomination and find ways to empower other churches and not just think about their own location. And God, I pray that you'd be with this show, that you continue to use it to be a blessing to people and to empower the local church. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen. Hey, listen, warm regards to your parents as well.
Bye-bye.
Just tell everyone we said hello.
Yeah.
All right.
All righty. Well, always good to be with David. Great guy. And I was so thrilled when we found out he was going up there as chief of staff. Does his job well, and a great spokesman for the church.
Yeah, absolutely,
Also,
absolutely. And his blog is just really good.
Yeah.
Lots of really great thoughts on fatherhood, especially, and it's
one of his blogs recently was he just kind of repeating some of the stuff that his dad has said in the past about leadership. And again, on his blog, it's just really good stuff. So we certainly want to point you there. All right. Well, let's keep moving along here, and I believe it is time for
I don't know.
time for
Download of the week?
yes.
Okay.
Download of the
I'm sorry. I really didn't know.
All right. Our download of the week is Spotify. I'm going to switch this over to you because this isn't
Oh.
anything new, but
Wow,
this is
yeah.
something that you
I'm
talked
on deck.
about this
Yeah,
week, and
totally
there's something that you really like that they've changed or they've done.
Right. So
added.
Spotify is a music subscription service. They swing deals with record labels and different production companies to get music. You don't actually own that music, but there's this giant library of just about everything that you can download from and listen to it. It's like, I don't know, $8 a month or something like that. Well, I'm not like a music nerd to the point where I have to have that. And I typically have been enjoying Pandora. Pandora is similar concept, except theirs, you don't get to choose the song you're listening to. You just have a radio station based on either a genre that you like or a band that you like, and they try to keep you within that theme. Well, what I've noticed is happening is that the more you listen to Pandora, the more you start hearing the same songs
Right.
over and over
Yeah.
and over again. And what's happening, it's sad, and I wish that it wasn't this way, but the same thing that happened to Netflix is kind of happening to Pandora. They were early in the game in the development of this stuff, and so it means that their deals that they're trying to swing with record labels, they're not wanting to work with Pandora because Pandora is not able to give them the kind of money that maybe other people want to or whatever. That's kind of what happens with Netflix. They've lost a lot of content because companies
sign
kind of
it.
want to go on their own and figure that out. But early on, they were doing a lot better. So Spotify changed something in their apps. Now, this doesn't work on the desktop applications, just on your Android or iOS smartphones. If you have the Spotify app, you now have access to Spotify Radio, which is the exact same thing as Pandora. So you don't have to have a subscription to Spotify. You don't have to be paying any kind of monthly fee. If you were to download the app for the first time, they give you like a 48-hour trial where you have access to everything and you can choose what you're listening to. But if you don't sign up for a subscription after that 48-hour trial, then basically it begins to build radio stations based off of what you like, and you can use it that way. And what you're going to have is, if you've been using Pandora and you're saying, man, I feel like I've just got the same stuff over and over again, Spotify has got different deals with different record labels, which means that they've got different content. And so you're going to start hearing some stuff that you haven't heard before, as well as things that you are already familiar with. So it's definitely worth checking out if you're a Pandora user. It breaks my heart to do this because Pandora's been around, goodness, for years.
Yeah.
For years.
They're
You think about
kind of the first one in that particular niche market.
by years. We were talking about Pandora back before I moved to North Carolina, as I was coming out of Southern Wesleyan in 2005. So
way back
that's no, but in internet time,
I agree.
that's an eternity, and so they've done great, and it breaks my heart in this, but you might want to check Spotify and look at that. Another application that I would encourage you to check out. I was looking for something on an Android device that would serve as a radio alarm clock that would pull an internet radio stream. Come to find out, TuneIn Radio is the app. I've used it before, but it has an alarm clock built into it. Yeah, even on an
did not
iOS
know
device,
that.
there is an alarm clock built into it.
Really?
So if you like, there's an NPR station out of North Carolina that I absolutely love. It's an all news NPR station. They don't do like classical music and stuff.
The time is 9:35.
Hush.
The ground pea farmers today.
I'm serious. I like that. So I like to wake up to that and hear that in the morning. So if you have like an internet stream that you like to listen to, I know like This Week in Tech or twit.tv, they have
The Technology Show.
twit.am, which is their always
But
streaming
you
radio
can
service.
wake up to your.
But you can wake up to that as an internet radio stream right through the TuneIn Radio app. So there's two kind of audio-oriented apps that I would recommend that you check out.
Hey, before we go to They Said It, and this is just not in the show notes, but we got an interesting email. I haven't had a chance to read it, but
Yeah.
Sumter.
Yeah, he was.
Surratt.
So we were
Oh.
talking about what? No.
Surratt. Phil Surratt.
Phil Surratt, not Chris Sumter.
Oh, I thought it
Phil
was
Surratt.
Yeah.
About how to make your stuff talk to you. You can do so he was talking about how we had mentioned that we'd like to record an audiobook version of a Plain Account. Well, he's noting that in the software in Mac OS and on an iOS device, you can get it to read text to you, just like you could on a Kindle. It has text reading built into it.
Yes.
Now that's great, but it's a very robotic voice. Like maybe I'll try to set it. Let me try to set it up here, and in a minute we'll break back to it and talk about it.
So you guys are talking about something totally different. I thought we got an email this week about someone who broke a Kindle.
Oh, we did. Yeah, we got that.
And
too.
who was that? Who's
that
from?
was Chris Sumter. Okay, so you got two different things going on. All right,
Sumter,
so
I promise you I didn't have anything else going on. I started talking about Chris Sumter's.
I didn't know what you were talking about.
He broke a Kindle.
He did. His Kindle fell face flat on the ground and it cracked the screen. So he asked us the question, what do I do? Do I spend $100 to get it repaired? Or do I spend $200 and get the Nexus 7 tablet? Here was my thinking and my advice. If I talked with my wife first and I had $100 that didn't need to go anywhere else, I would definitely, for the lifetime of use that you're going to get out of the device, that $100 investment in the Nexus 7 tablet is a great thing. There's going to be, because it's a Google reference tablet, there's going to be software updates that are going to bring new features, and it's going to be great. Whereas the Kindle Fire isn't. The hardware side of things,
right?
It's $100 more. Well, they're both at the beginning priced out the same. An 8 gig Kindle Fire and an 8 gig Nexus 7 are both $200.
Yeah.
But the hardware difference is
amazing.
worth $100 in that. I mean, the processor, the graphics core, all of that kind of stuff is absolutely fantastic. The thing that I do worry about, and that I mentioned to him, is that when you're talking about lifetime, getting a lifetime's use out of a device, 8 gigs of internal storage is not a lot. Yeah. It's just not a lot.
It's not. What they're trying to do with that is they're trying to get you to use Google Drive to have your videos online, have your music online.
And that's all well and good. But when you're talking about games or certain applications, there are applications.
People use those for games
that are.
I can put games on this.
Well, but here now you're getting into how do I want to use this device.
Yeah.
So if you're just talking about, I'm going to use it primarily as a reader. Buy the Nexus 7 tablet because it's going to give you a lot more. You can do the reader, but it'll give you a lot of other options.
Yes.
If you're going to buy it for the stuff
for other use,
for
then any kind
the
of media consumption
is going to become an issue.
It will, and like 8 gigs is just it's tiny when you start talking about files. And that thing plays 720p videos. Like a 30-minute 720p video is going to be over a gig of storage. Well, that just doesn't leave you with much elbow room. So at a $50 increase, so now you're talking $150 more than the $100 repair. That's where you start asking these kinds of questions. For $50, like. Were it me again, and I went to my wife and I said, "Ashley, I've got $150, and it doesn't need to go anywhere else. Is this okay?" Then definitely that's the direction I'd go. However, though, it kills me because Kindle's gonna have an updated Kindle Fire soon. And I'll be curious to see that.
For $250, what kind of Nexus can you get?
A 16 gig.
You can get a 16 gig for $50 more.
Yep.
Because yesterday, that's something that. I talked about with David Gould on the Good Morning Show yesterday. We talked about back-to-school gadgets, and I was raving about the Nexus 7 and how even for kids my age, my girls are about to turn 9. For me, I would be totally comfortable if I had the money buying them a Nexus 7 to use as a reader, but also for games. To me, that's just
and we have a friend. We go to church with him, Bill Cody, who is the Nexus 7 tablet that we demoed and we tried out. Well, he got it from us, and he's been using it already. And what is the program that they have now with Jelly Bean, where it learns all of your where you're going, your schedule, stuff like that?
Yeah. What do they call it? Gracie, it's their Siri thing, but yeah.
But so now get this. He said when he gets up in the morning under your notifications, it's already learned his rhythms, and when he pulls that down, it tells him if you leave right now, you can be to work by such and so time. Here's what the traffic looks like on your way. You might want to try this. other route because it's really congested right there. I mean, kind of scary stuff, man. And he said, I never told it that was work, but it's figured out the rhythms. Oh, that's probably where you work. And so now it's just
So the downside is they will turn into Terminators. It will. The
John
Nexus
Connor,
7
please save
in
us.
5 years, if you plan 5 years of use, it will have killed you in that 5-year time. But it's definitely worth $100 upgrade.
Yeah,
okay?
it's worth $100
Hey,
upgrade.
before we move on any further, too, the giveaway is live. It's ready to go. So go head over to thetechnologyshow.com/giveaway and get entered in there. You can also do it on our Facebook page. For a copy of the story of the Wesleyan Church, it will be shipped directly to you. That is not your copy, but you will get a fresh, hot off the press copy
fresh.
shipped right from
This one's already
the
been
bookstore to you
cataloged.
all. Right.
And for $19 more, you can get the audio version of this book read by me in a British accent.
Can we have a
For
preview of that,
example,
please?
The Holiness Union and the Pilgrim Holiness Church that would come from it were missional long before
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on. Here we go.
Read my lips.
I'm going to say this again.
I've never taken steroids or HGH.
I took the initiative in creating the internet.
The Macintosh, of all the machines I've ever seen, is the only one that meets that standard.
I'm not a crook.
If you know what you're doing here, slide out.
A content analysis revealed that 70% of the sexual acts depicted in movies released from 1983 to 2003 occurred between newly acquainted partners. 98% included no reference to contraception, and 89% resulted in no consequences. Gunasakara, Chapman, and Campbell, co-authors of a 2005 study that highlights the impact of sex in media upon teenagers. Source, Charisma News.
We supplied this show when it first started. It's just rock candy with blue dye, and it looks like the real thing. Debbie Ball, a.k.a. the Candy Lady, who's defending her right to sell meth candy, which is inspired by the show Breaking Bad. Ball claims that all the controversy just helps her to sell more. Source, Yahoo News.
What if he's up there preaching and the battery dies or something like that? I hope he has a real Bible next to him so he can look up what he needs to look up. Isabella Howard, 62, of Detroit's New Calvary Baptist Church, commenting on the pastor who has started using the iPad in the pulpit. Source, USA Today.
The General Conference of the United Methodist Church voted in May to stop guaranteeing continuous appointments to ordained clergy. Supporters say the move will allow churches to more easily remove ineffective clergy. Opponents argue the practice protects clergy members. Ruth Moon, as part of a discussion she has moderated entitled, "Should Pastors Be Guaranteed Job Security?" Source, Christianity Today. So let's go up to Heath here. So that's a great accent, but it's out of Detroit, man.
Yeah, it's a female from Detroit. I totally missed that. So I did get the Southern gentleman.
Yeah, you need to work on your Detroit accent.
Can I just say that when I first got my iPad, I was preaching from my iPad. I would create a PDF, I would load it into iBooks, and I was using that, and I have stopped doing that, and not totally against it. I'm just trying new things right now. But it wasn't because of battery, and typically what I do is any scriptures I'm using, I copy and paste them into my sermon notes. And so I've got that. Yeah. So if my real Bible got lost or something, I'm covered. But I guess I'm one person who quickly adopted iPad preaching, and now I've kind of gone away from it. So.
Well, this article out of USA Today is just about how the adoption of digital Bibles is growing, and that the clergy are beginning to use it from the pulpit. So they, have one anecdotal story here of a pastor who does that.
Right.
What killed me, you know why I love this quote.
Yeah.
Because she says, well, hopefully he's got the real Bible there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there still is this idea that digital Bibles are not real Bibles.
Right.
I have a link that'll be in the show notes, and it's YouVersion Stats. This is not put out by YouVersion.
Right.
It's someone else reporting. over 10 million downloads.
Yeah.
And this article, there is concern because, one guy in the article says, listen, the Bible has been the #1 seller, and now it's beginning to tail off, and he has this concern. And my response to him is, wait a minute, you just measure something different now. And that is, before you were measuring hard copies, well, we're entering a digital age, you just measure the number of digital downloads. I mean, it's not that hard.
Right.
And his worries, I don't think, are warranted. And for me, my Bible devotional reading is exclusively from the iPad.
You heathen.
What Matthew's over here pouring like it's as loud as he can get it. He's got the mug.
Nobody could hear it until you said something just now. So
every Sunday now, and I got this from another pastor, saw it on a blog or something. When I get up, I said, if you've got your Bibles, you can turn to this, or you can turn your Bible on and click on Oakway United. And I mean, every week we have people who are sharing prayer requests, who are answering. We do questions like, what does God need to change in your life? And every week we are getting responses on YouVersion. It has been a tremendous tool.
What I like about YouVersion for my devotions is I pull up my daily Bible reading, and then I have it. It has the ability to read it. So it's reading out loud as I'm following along, and to pause that is just simple. Just hit it, pause it if you want to go back and study something. Also, I've gotten into where I highlight things, and I've learned how to do that. And here's the thing: it's at first it seemed awkward, but all of a sudden I kind of made this transition that this is no different than when I'm underlining stuff in the Bible, and the ability to
you
find
are
things.
Underlining stuff in the Bible,
right? It's just you're doing it in a in a digital way, and it's let me say this: it's much easier because you just tap on the verse, highlights the whole verse. You hit another thing, in which part, what color do you want to highlight it?
Do you guys remember Steven Anderson from? Let's see here. He's the guy that looks like Matthew Fox or. What? Not Matthew Fox. What's the guy's? Tempe, Arizona. Yeah, Matthew Fox from Lost. Pastor at Faithful Word Baptist Church, where they are an independent, fundamental, soul-winning King James Bible-owning Baptist church in Arizona. I would love to see what he would do with an iPad in the pulpit.
As long as it's King James version.
You can get the King. You can get the King James on.
I'd like to see somebody load him up with the New Living Translation on YouVersion. Say, here, Pastor.
Just see what would happen. You know how that would turn out.
Anyway,
I think we need to bring him on the show to talk about this.
Can I say that the reading voices on YouVersion, tremendous. I mean, they do sound very British and very good. But also, if you go on YouVersion and you create an account and sign up for a reading plan, they stay on you. You get behind in that reading plan, you get emails like, hey, behind in your reading plan.
Now you bring up, I didn't think of this, but you're great. I mean, you bring up a great point. That is, make an account, because then it doesn't matter what device you're on. If you're on this computer, if you're on your iPhone, you're on your iPad, whatever, your Android device, like you said, it brings up your account and where are you in your yearly Bible reading, and and the plan that you have set up, and they have different plans. I mean, right now this year I determined that for 2012 I'd do the read through the Bible.
Right.
I mean, like you said, man, you get behind. If you get behind, there's an email. Hey, here's
you okay? Yeah. and they will react to that and readjust.
Yep.
It's
so you're not having to read like 7 days worth in one sitting. Like it smartly figures out, okay, so here's an option for you.
You need to catch up today.
You could add
all of the prophets.
You can add a little bit of extra every day from here till whenever, and it'll get you caught back up. It really is great.
All right, the very first one that you read, Heath. This is a really good article. Would highly recommend pastors get to this because they cite several studies. So a lot of times as preachers, we get up and we just kind of anecdotally say, well, media and it's negative. Well, there's been this constant question back and forth.
Right.
Does art imitate life, or does life imitate art? Well, they just brought a number of studies together, and their point has been that there seems to be a correlation between teenagers, what they view in the media, and then how they act out sexually.
Yeah.
And this is just one study.
Right.
And just think of all of this in this one study where they go from 1983 to 2003, looking at all the media. And I don't know
pity
how
the
they
poor
defined
person who had to
media.
do that.
You have to look within the study and find out how they defined,
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, this is alarming. 70% of sex acts are between two people who just meet.
Yeah.
And then do it. 98% of the time, contraception's not even discussed.
Yeah.
And so if you are looking for materials that try to get into what is the influence of media and sexual behavior, this is a good article and links you up some good studies.
And I would say the 2% of the time where there is a reference to contraception, it's in a joking way. There's a joke made about it. There's something about it. On a related note, just saw a link. I can't remember if it was Fox News, but that the porn industry has been shut down because of a syphilis outbreak.
Oh. Yeah.
So just goes to show you there are consequences to this. But for a teenager, if you've watched soap operas or anything, any type of show, you would think, oh, that's how it is. Two people can just meet and just...
spontaneous.
It's just spontaneous, and it's always like that, and it is not.
Well, again,
always.
This is a good article and it links you up with more than one study. We just gave you one study out of this article. There are 3 or 4 studies, and all of them, of course, they're being selective here, but every one of these studies raises a concern about media, sex in the media, and its influence on teenagers. Okay, so like if you were really sad when they did away with candy cigarettes, good news. There's candy meth
Candy
now.
meth.
Candy.
Yep.
So it looks like it. It's blue dye. It looks
yeah.
like the real thing.
So yes, in the show Breaking Bad, it's a show about a
meth.
chemist, a high school chemistry teacher who gets cancer and decides to care for his family after he dies. That there's tons of money to be made in the methamphetamine business, and he knows how to do it. So he gets involved in that, and his methamphetamine, because it's so pure, is tinted blue, like it's colored blue. So like she's selling Breaking Bad. It's basically rock candy. If you've ever seen rock candy on a stick, then you've already had candy meth on a stick.
And the candy lady here, she's the one that provided for the show Breaking Bad, what you see on the show, as I understand it from the article. I debated whether to even bring the story up, because there's probably some truth to what she says when she says, "Oh, all the controversy is good. It just helps me sell more."
Oh, absolutely.
And now I apologize. Is she selling, is this a nationwide thing? Can I go to Walmart today and pick up some meth
No, I
candy?
don't think so.
She's in New Mexico. You can buy it from her, and there are just people in the community that are just outraged that don't glorify this. And so the reason I put this in here is, despite what she says, I mean, to me it is outrageous.
Yes.
I mean, you are glorifying it. We don't need meth candy, and if you have ever watched a documentary on meth and what it's doing in this country, one of the things that they say is drug use and drug addiction has for many years been an urban problem. Not to say that you couldn't find it in rural areas, but the point is this, that if you could tackle the urban areas, then you are dealing with the majority. Methamphetamine not only is an urban problem, it's a rural problem. And so one of the documentaries I saw was rural communities in Missouri.
Oh, yeah.
And it is tragic.
Yeah.
It is tragic what it's doing in this country, and then to have a lady who's selling meth candy, it's unconscionable.
Winter's Bone is a movie that really got Jennifer Lawrence, the star of the Hunger Games. Winter's Bone was kind of her coming out party, and it is a movie about a family intertwined of meth cookers, and very rural, very country, and it is it definitely earns its R rating, but it is a glimpse into, even though it's a movie, it's a glimpse into this subculture of doing meth and dealing meth. And you can hide, let me tell you, you can hide a lot of addictions. You can hide a porn addiction, you can hide a cocaine addiction, and let me tell you, you cannot hide a meth addiction. I mean, there are websites where you can go, and they have pictures before and after, and it is and so you learn to see the signs, and so it is heartbreaking to me when I'm in my community and I see somebody, and it is unmistakable. I mean, the signs are unmistakable. Sores on the body, the
teeth.
The lack of the lose your
I had a
teeth.
lady hit me up. We were on vacationing down in Charleston area, and a lady came up in the parking lot, and I mean she looked desperate, and she was telling me she needed insulin, and she pulled out a bottle to show me, and I looked at her. I said, what you're wanting for is money for meth, and I said, and that's clear to me. She had the open source. She was what I call the classic.
Yeah.
So she'd been a long-time user, and when I say long time, a couple of years. I mean, some of these photographs you're talking about, literally in 2 years, people just transform.
Yeah, and it is.
So I'm one.
Heartbreaking.
Let's go beyond just that though,
me.
because it should bother us. Like I think about kids in the homes of meth producing places.
God,
it is so dangerous, and when you hear stories, when you see on the news or you hear stories about people who've been hurt because of that, like physically hurt, and they're innocent. They don't have any part to play, and they can't help it that they're there. That's what kills me, and the glorification of it that would really bother me.
It's like making a bomb in your home, and if you've watched any of the house flipping shows or home improvement shows where they go in and they buy a house and they're going to fix it up and flip it, that's one of the. I mean, they look for signs of meth, because if there's a sign of meth, you have to get that house tested because it is toxic, and if it's too toxic, there's really. If it's reached certain levels, there's nothing you can do but tear the house down.
Wow. Real fast, we linked you with another story from Christianity Today. Again, it's this thing that Ruth Moon has been moderating. Should pastors be guaranteed job security? This is funny to me because we don't have this in the Wesleyan Church.
Right.
But in the United Methodist Church, for decades, you've been guaranteed an appointment. So once you're ordained, then you are guaranteed an appointment for life.
And that's not chosen by a congregation. That appointment is literally that. It isn't an appointment. And there are pros and cons to that. I have a friend pastor in the Methodist Church who talks about how valuable that is, and about the pension part of all of this, and what you're right. What that part of stuff for Methodist pastors is serious, and sometimes it's kind of like, man, that sounds kind of nice. I kind of like that.
Yes, very nice. So now they've done away with that. So this pastoral conference, there's no guaranteed appointments anymore, and so that's sending ripples throughout the denomination. In our denomination, we've never had guaranteed appointment. I've heard one DS who says you have to create your own demand. I mean, that's the way it is in the Wesleyan Church. And so, kind of on the outside, looking into another
there are
denomination.
benefits of that too. Like there are some people, some, and maybe they do have the best of hearts and intentions, but they make their way through a DBMD process, a ordination process, and they should not be. And it isn't caught by those who it should be caught by. And so now you're ordained, and you should not be.
Well, it's not even caught. I mean, it's like we let you be a bad pastor at multiple churches. We let you, like, as long as you didn't do anything bad, you could be ineffective all day long, and we would reward your faithfulness. And I think I can't remember the exact quote from Kevin Myers. He said we should honor faithfulness, but we should reward results.
Yeah.
And I agree with that.
All right. Well, we need to wrap this up real quick. As we're coming up in the future, remember that in 2 weeks we start our new day and our new time. It's Tuesdays at noon. So those of you in the chat room, and you especially, we hope that you'll come along with us and join us Tuesdays at noon. Have a really good lineup. Boy, our fall is just about full. We're almost we're starting to spill over into December. Next week we have Mark Waltz, and in studio we're going to be Beth Peterson's going to be here. She's the one that put us on to Mark Waltz. He's out of the Granger Church. His first book was First Impressions, Creating Wow Experience in Your Church. We'll be giving that book away next week. He'll be joining us via Skype. And Beth's just going to help us with the interview. On September the 4th.
Don't you love people's reactions to change? I know Stevin's not excited about our time change. Joe Gormonk's not excited about our time change. Guys, sorry. It's change is that way. Not everybody's gonna like it, but we're doing it.
Change is good.
Get on the bandwagon.
React
Let's go.
to this the way you'd want your parishioners to.
That's right. That's right.
John Saddington, who is better known as Tent Blogger from tentblogger.com and 8bit.co, is going to be talking to us about digital media in the church, how he's trying to help Christians learn how to make money blogging, and then a new thing he started with his brother called Action and Influence, how to kind of measure your leadership gifts and goals. September the 11th, we've got Tim Stevens, the executive pastor from Granger Community Church. Man, it's a Granger kind of month here. Yeah. He wrote a book based on the last 5 years of their church's journey called Vision, Lost and Found. Great book. Finished it a couple weeks ago. September 18th, Tony, tell us who we've got.
We got Leroy, one of the Leroy boys here, Matt Leroy, and then also Jeremy Summers, their new book, editors of the book Awakening Grace.
And hopefully they'll have had a little bit more rest than the last time we tried to talk to them about this.
We've got an autographed copy of Awakening Grace will be given away, and also be given away of Tim's book, Vision, Lost and Found. Lenny Lucetti, September 25th, professor from Wesley Seminary. He's written a book, Preaching Essentials.
Yeah. And then I'm just going to run through October real quick, and we'll talk more about them in detail. But Rachel Held Evans, her book, A Year of Biblical Womanhood, that's October 2nd. October 9th, Claire Diaz Ortiz, Twitter for Good. October 16th, Dan and Joy Irvin will be in studio, the directors for the Carib Atlantic for the Wesleyan Church. October 23rd, Dr. Timothy Tennant, he's the president of Asbury Seminary. October 30th, Dr. James Emery White will be discussing his book, What They Didn't Teach You in Seminary.
Yeah, I think he's got a new one coming out, too, so there may be opportunity to, I think he's got I'm not positive, I'll research that, but yeah.
November the 6th, we have Sean Lovejoy, founder of churchplanners.com. The Measure of Our Success, his book, we'll be discussing that. November 20th, Dr. Joanne Lyon, General Superintendent for the Wesleyan Church, will be here with us. November the 27th, Phil Stevenson, his book, The Ripple Church, Multiply Your Ministry by Parenting New Churches. Also, we'll talk about his website and what they're doing there with leadership and coaching and things of that nature. So, full schedule.
Wow, yeah.
And a few weeks ago, we had a guy on here, Dan Scott, and tonight on Charter Cable Channel 10, if you're in our area, his show debuts tonight from 9 to 11, or you can watch that at the Dan Scott Show, and we wish him much success in his new endeavor.
All right. Heath, where can our listeners find you?
They can go to heathmullican.com, and there they can click on my Twitter link, Facebook link, and every link in the world. So, yeah.
All Heath all the time.
That's right.
Matthew?
You can find me at MatthewTG.com. Everything is also there in that spot.
All right. And you can find me at Facebook.com/AKC64. If you want to do further research on anything we discussed today, you can find all the links to the stories we covered at our website, thetechnologyshow.com. If you want to contact us, send your emails to thetechnologyshow@gmail.com, or better yet, pick up the phone and give us a call at 3049-TEOLOGY. That's 304-986-5649. Whether you agreed with us, disagree with us, call, leave your comments, and we may even play those comments on the air. As always, hey, thanks for joining us. Make sure you go to our website, enter in to win the book, The Story of the Wesleyan Church by Robert Black and Keith Drury. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Adios. The identity shift experienced by Wesleyan Methodists in the late 19th century was a small tremor compared to the quake that was about to rattle American religious life in general.
You need the Cockney, you know.